Welcome to tutorial 7 for the e-commerce web app. So I'm going to kind of walk through some things we already have. We've had this for about a year for the last session, but here we are with our inventory now. And as you can see, we've got a graph that compares what we've ordered to what we've sold. And along with it, this is the transaction log that we've had for quite some time in our last group of classes. And obviously we've come a long way with the rating system, and the shopping cart has much more detail to it. Obviously we've got validation when we order, and for the most part this is what we'd be focused on in this package, in this class. I'm going to be figuring out how to order things and then tell things when we received it. I'll let it be known that we received it. So we've got to get a new table called inventory. And here's where we start all of our ordering logging. And for the most part, we will be working here, but I do want to be updating the items table, which we've worked with in the past. It's been a while. But the calculations here in the front end will be firing off information to be stored on the items table as well within this hour and a half long class. So just get ready for it. There'll be a little bit of me going through and trying to figure out what works, but I've tried to edit out everything that wouldn't be relevant to our class. So bear with me if you see me kind of do something and have to get an error figured out. Because I have not built this. This is not something I have in my functional library yet. I've never built a logging system for my inventory, but I feel like it's useful and it's well worth it, and I don't know why I haven't had one, so let's go ahead and get it in there. Go ahead and write my routes just on my server.js. Just like all the others, I'm going to be focusing on this route going to a file named Inventory.js, which is a server-side node with Express. So let's go ahead and import everything that we're going to need, whether it be introduction to where the database is, to our token validations, what have you, the router, and then when we exporting this thing, obviously, just like all the others. And so, speaking of all the others, these are all CRUD systems, and so let's go cherry pick the pieces that we could use from the other ones and retrofit it to fit us. Like, I'm just basically taking this package that had an add review, because it's a router post, and I'm just breaking it down and saying, okay, this package no longer has that. This package is going to carry this stuff. I need to know things like my user timestamp, obviously, and my item name, but now we're dealing with quantity and status. Status meaning, is it ordered, or has it been received? Because just because you ordered it doesn't mean it's in your inventory yet. So they're going to have kind of a process that we're going to have to check. I'm going to change the path to add inventory. And so basically it's going to be a post that's going to be expecting a package of content, like an object for the most part. And then we turn it into something that we can file off and send to SQL, the SQL database. Anyway, so we're going to be doing a get when it comes to the item name. So we're going to go get on the server side to the inventory table, and we're going to go anything in the inventory table with this item name, go ahead and get it and feed it to the client side. So this is our second. We've done an add inventory, and now we're doing the get. Now let's go to the front end in our components folder and write Inventory.js. This is the inventory component that will be plugged in, imported, whatever you want to call it, into our CMS.js, our CMS component, module, what have you. We know we're going to be using Axios, so we're just going to make what they call a functional component. It's your standard function, or where you call out a variable, you pass the props, and then you hit return, and within your return you have your JSX. Now, we're going to have to export it like always, so let's just get that written down real fast. And we're just going to start building out our JSX/HTML. This is really standard. You got to start somewhere. So I'm starting off with our obvious bootstrap grid system and a title. and we will be altering it from here based on what I have already in place. Now let's go import this into our CMS module component so that you can see it in the actual interface. So I'm going to say I want to import that inventory file which I just wrote. So I'm going to give it a path. And we remember that we do need to pass it to what exactly are we talking about here, and we're talking about a specific item name for that matter. So since we already have that in the populate fields, we can determine what it is. We'll go ahead and pass this forward. So once we figure out in the populate fields what item we're talking about, we'll get this down to the inventory module. Okay, so I'm just getting this state together to be passed. And we'll see if I keep that as false. I might make that an object, but right now I'm just kind of putting things together. Like I said, I'm not copying from anything at this point. I'm just basically thinking up in my mind what I do or don't want to do. And then some of it's one of those things where I'll go back and refactor it. So there's some kind of, you'll see my thought process here. So let me pass on that selection object. And I'm saying initially, if that selection object is false, then don't do anything. That's what I'm trying to do at least. But it looks like that's a mess. So we'll just resolve this problem here. Go ahead and pass the object over to my inventory so that we know what we're getting. Just seeing if it's working. Yeah, this is going to evolve quite a bit through this lesson. Yeah, okay, so it's passing the name. That's good. We don't need the row because we have the row already. This module is already encompassed in a row within the CMS module, so let's just start with the grid of 12. And stock quantity, for now, stock quantity is what we're dealing with. That's what we've called it. Within this lesson, though, I'm going to basically take stock quantity out because it will be something that's going to be the variable is going to be computed and then updated all the time. So stock quantity, that's a temporary thing. So let's build our function out. I'm basically saying I want to update status. And it's going to be a couple different states that I'm going to pass. Update status could mean a couple things. One meaning I'm ordering. And the other one is meanings I received. So ordering is going to be kind of one of those things where we're warning everyone, hey, this is on the way, do not order it again. And it's just going to be a warning, and it will make it to where whoever's coming around cannot order again until they've received. And so in which case this is the toggle situation I'm going to put together that will help us out. It will help guide the people from ordering twice, doubling up. So basically this button will be shown based on this ternary operator. And if it already isn't on its way, then we'll have another button. It'll say like received. So you'll see. I'm going to put it in kind of an alert, so it not only is it something that they can push, but it's going to be in their face with a bright color. right, so I'm going to make it a warning and put some text in there, in the title. And so we'll be displaying our order status and have a little bit of information. I'm just going to double check and make sure I've got all what I wrote down initially so it knows what status is. Just kind of a preemptive what I'm going to be doing. As you can see, like, as I'm writing this, a lot of ideas are kind of going through my head. Like, I don't really know what I'm going to be writing yet. I'm just thinking something up. A lot of times I'll write something, and I'm like, well, that doesn't work. But at least I know, like, a direction at this point. So as you can see, order status is now being more appropriate. So, like, if it says equals received, then we do that. And if it doesn't equals received, we'll be showing the other. So it's getting more relevant now. But I think that's the same thing with basically all my clients too. Anybody I've ever worked with, and not just clients, but in offices, everybody who's ever had any project will ultimately have you write something. You write it, they'll look at it, they say they don't like it, and then you have to rewrite it in another fashion, completely different. I know that it sucks, but that's exactly how everyone's brain works, including when I'm building something. Like, I'll write it out just so I can think, I've got to go one direction or another. Where do I start? So as you can see, I'm writing out this thing kind of slowly, kind of getting ideas together. Now, what's great about if you have a client who's always changing their minds, you can charge them every time they change their mind, which is great. But they don't think it's great, but it is great. If they're burning your time and they say, I build this, and you build it and charge them, and they don't like it, and they make you build it again, and then ultimately it's their loss. They have to pay you. But not in this case, however. Here I am, refactoring for free. But don't get discouraged when you have to do this, because this is the whole point of writing something. Is, I would say, everything you write is ultimately going to be have to written at least one more time. When you get it done, and not to mention that when you're done with your project, let's put it to you this way. I've written a e-commerce project. This is like my fourth, maybe fifth one. It's in my career, like the entire one. So you'll look back at something you've written, and like 6 months later, like, wow, I would never write that. And then you feel like you have to write it again, and you do. And so ultimately you just get better and better product. So here I'm going to be passing what I'm going to be my log. I've brought in a timestamp which was used throughout the rest of the application, and it is exactly how I'm going to be putting it in this one because it matches the other tables. And it helps me do a filter because it has the year, and then it has the month, and then the day, so on and so forth. So it's excellent in our things like purchasing logs and filtering dates. Now we also have, as you can see, the user email for this user timestamp variable value. And this is going to work obviously because I will be doing searches for the specific person. And I need to keep that colon in there because colons don't belong in emails. So in which case, if anybody has like coincidentally the exact same email plus something or minus an extra character, they won't get mistaken for this person because that colon guarantees that this is that email. Nobody similar will match. Okay, so now we're working with order quantity. And we want to make sure that it's numeric in our validation. So our validation's already built. We've been using it. It has a list of things in there that says should be numeric. So we're just going to plug that in there. And here we go with, in case we do an update status and it's an ordering, that's when I wander through and do my validate. Now, if my validate says that there's nothing there or it's not a number, it's going to create an error for that box. And if I find an error anywhere, then we're going to stop this whole process, just like always. And we got to pass over the alert option to our module, which we do for everyone. and pass them a little message and tell them we have to have a number here. And then we'll have a color, which is warning, the warning color for whatever assigned to that color. And we'll stop the process with a return false. However, if we're not in the status of ordering, we're going on with something else, we're going to be fine. We don't have to validate. And let's keep going with this object that we're building called order log. Now, order log, we're going to be moving around things for scope, so they can be used throughout. As you can see, the order log is going to be introduced up at the top, and then we can kind of manipulate it as we see fit, because it's going to have multi-purposes based on what our status is. And we want to make sure that the scope reaches them, and that doesn't get closed off within these if statements. And as you can see, if I'm ordering, I'm doing an update. It's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be the whole package that we had before. We're just looking for a specific user timestamp. And then the thing is, we're changing the user timestamp. It would say like order or received, one or the other. And that's going to be something that's going to help us define what we're doing and what status everything's in. So as you can see, we'll be updating our user timestamps. Looks like I'm going to be borrowing from the review. And we're to make a post for the inventory table. So I'm just going over to grab a post that we've already written and just kind of model it after that. Now, as you can see, the path's kind of similar, so I don't want to mess this up. I want to get it right. This is really like the human error part, is if you mess up your path. That's 404 errors is super easy to get. So let's go ahead and say if I'm going to do a post and I'm going to post this order log object, I'm going to make sure that the config is all correct. And then we're going to start with our results and errors. So let me pass down config, like we're definitely going to need it. And then from in there, we're going to have either a result or an error. And as you can see with the quantity, there's some misspellings. Sometimes Visual Studio gets a little overzealous, and instead of dot value, it wrote dot area value max. So as you can see, I'll be having to tailor some stuff up there. I'm not done. But let me finish up with this in case there's an error. And give it a color, which is going to be danger, which is probably going to be red for most of them in my Bootstrap themes. And from here, we'll put basically another one. What's going to happen here is it's going to tell us whether it did or didn't work in the data in the server. And so you'll see the steps that we're going to build with this result. It's going to get a little more complicated. Similar to our other ones, we want to make sure it works. So we're also going to do a put, which is really close to the same kind of thing. But as you can see here, I'm changing the status to say like that it was received. So we need to change the status update. And here you go. Here's the server side. As you can see, I need to go ahead and write a put for an update to set the values in the inventory table. I have to change them. So I just do my check token, which is all of them have to do this. And then, of course, my callbacks here. Here's the SQL string. And as you can see, user time spent is what I'm looking for. Status is what I'm going to be updating, and the table is what's going to be updated, the inventory table. So it's all pretty basic here. So the server side is written, and on loaded, when we load this page, we're the first and foremost, we're going to have to do a get. And so I need to basically see if it loaded. I do this on all the pages. It's like, hey, did this load? Good. Do we have the data yet? Yes or no? If not, then we're going to have to run through this again. See, it says order status. Here we go. Let's go ahead, and when the page loads, we'll be asking if we've gotten the data, if this is loaded yet, and if not, then we start our get process. And we'll just be asking about the, as you can see, I had to fix that. Yeah, like I said, sometimes they get a little overzealous and write stuff for you. But we're going to be wanting to know about the item name here. And so that's what the get is. And from there, we're going to get a response that's going to have all our data. And in case we get any 500 errors, here's our error concept that we can pass, as always. And our very simple success so far, not finished with it. There we go. It's pretty ugly, very ugly, but we're working. Let's get rid of the select status menu. We don't need it. Let's kind of clean this up a little bit. And I feel like I'm going to get that out of there and start getting some real information here in a second. We're getting closer. Yeah, I just need to make sure I have item name, or I won't be able to have that get sent off. So 404, like I said, these are really typical. And not only that, the quantity is not a number, that's a string with it. You can see that that's not going to work on the server. The server's waiting to have a number, and that has quotes around it, so no, not good. Not a big deal, though. We can easily swap that out. Let's go ahead and just clear it up before it gets there to make sure that we all know it's a number. So quantity is being defined as this value. And this value is saying, hey, I want to make sure that that thing can be converted into a number. Try catch is kind of similar. Try catch will keep you from errors, obviously. So the if statement could work, but it looks like I'm kind of back and forth with ideas here, and I'm going to go try catch. In case I do call an error, in case that is not something I can convert to a number, I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to tell you that's not a number. And here's an error that says so. And not only that, we're going to stop everything, because being that it's not a number, it's not ever going to go through. And so that's what's going to happen here. we couldn't convert it to a number, so we had to stop it. And we saved you from crashing your system, basically. Anyway, so as you can see, I'm swinging in and switching my statuses up, putting my email in there. It's getting cleaner. Timestamps and status, all that's going to be useful for our logging. And let's go ahead and do an order. As you can see, I now have a quantity that's a real number. There's no, it says 12 there. There's a number, no quotes around it. So let's go update the server post. So this is within our inventory. We want to update this from it used to say review, but this is just, our order. So let's go ahead and name it appropriately. Okay, so it's saying everything's working. And we got an affected row of 1. Now everybody knows if you have that affected row of 1, it means the server it found the information in the database and updated it, and we had an affected row of 1. That's a big deal. If you have 0 instead of 1, that means it found it. You don't have a problem like as far as your computer found everything, or your internet was successful, your call was, but it didn't find what it was looking for. So it's going to have things like affected row equals 0. So here we're going to be really distinctive of, all right, well, if that's the case, affected row equals 0, that's the only time I really want to say it worked. Because it didn't work if it just got there and didn't find anything. So here we go. Affected rows equals 1, very important. That means you had a successful call and it found what you were looking for. And you'll see me bring it in a second. I might have deleted it temporarily, but... And it doesn't... Order status nowadays just has the word received in it. So that's why I had to change that. It's not just received or not received, or received or ordered anymore. Now it has dates and names, email addresses, so I couldn't just have it as, now I need to know, hey, is the word in your string? It's not going to equal it. All right, so I'm just making this pretty, putting it in there. All right, that status is looking good. That's what we want to see. And it's got a couple of dashes. I'll have to come back and fix that. btn dash success is nothing. But let me get all this other stuff. This is more like instructions to explain to people once you received it to click the button that says order received. Just some intuition, like kind of feeding the user a little bit of what they're supposed to do once they get the order. And as you can see here, I changed this based on the coloring of if it's received or not. So, not that it will matter because it'll be hidden, but not that it matters. See how it changed colors? Now order has been received. Affected rows 1. And so far, this table is being updated. And our ugly button, as we can see here, I've noticed that my mistake. And I need to make this, I'd like them to have, it's kind of a bar, width of 100, and it looks like the class is supposed to be unstyled. I had a misspelling there. List-unstyled. Now it looks pretty. And took out the bullet points. So as you can see, the message right now is just showing I've stringified the object to show you what the response was. So that will be changed as well. And our active item is going to be something I need to determine, like for the whole module, because we need to feed that information throughout. So I'm going to make it kind of a public scope throughout the inventory function, saying, hey, everybody, this is the item they're working with. And we're going to set that every time I actually get that item loaded. As you can see, it's being identified as the timestamp here, or the active item. So now I'm asking it, as we spoke of earlier, above the affected rows. So this is the post. Did it work? Did you find it? And did it work? And if affected row equals 1, that means yes. Anything else would mean we got a successful call, but we didn't find anything. So affected row, we can move forward and set our status and allow them to understand that we're working forward. Anything else is a warning or danger, as you can see. And as typically what I typically do for everybody. And I'm going to do it down here for my put as well. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I just need to know it worked. And I need to make sure I have a status here. And if I don't, then I'll just have to explain. But we haven't ordered anything yet. So if it shows up and it's like, hey, we're looking for those orders, it's like, what orders? I mean, if nothing comes back from the server, then you could freeze your application. So we're getting it ready to let it know. Like if we haven't ordered anything, instead of breaking our application, we're going to go ahead and do that. Say we don't have anything. Now, when it comes to ordering active item and active status, these kind of things here in the log, I want the last one. They're going to give me an object that has multiple entries, and I just want the last one. So that's why I'm going to the length, which is whatever the length is, -1, which would mean the last one on the list. There we go. And as you can see, I'm just going through and getting the last. It's not updating as of yet up there. I'm just still working in this section. But as you can see, I'm getting closer to getting a official quantity we have. Okay, so let's go ahead and use state. So we can set the quantity ordered. And we'll start off with a number 0, which, just a little heads up, if you actually do the kind of built-in function where you write number and then write a 0 in there, I don't think that actually qualifies as a number, and it'll show up as such. It'll show up differently. So be careful. Just a little heads up. You might want to use parse int instead, just in case you don't want to. It's confusing. 0 is not a number. That's according to this thing. So that's something I found out. Very strange. But maybe somebody can explain to me what good that does when it screws up your function. So anyway, so let's grab some orders, and we're basically just going to pass the name of what we're actually going to grab. So all I'm doing is taking it out of the use effect so that we can use the grab orders function anytime we want. It's not just during the use effect, like load up page. It's something I do quite a bit, if you notice, where I'll initially start saying, when I load this page, I'd like to do an Axios GET and get my data. It's like, yeah, great. However, as the functions move forward and I'm like needing to make alterations, once those alterations are done, I need to grab the item again to see the refreshed data. And so, in which case, it's very common for me to take whatever I've done in the load page and then take it out and name it something that we can use everywhere. And as you can see, we have a successful update order status. However, it is messed up when we get the data back. So let's take a look at that. It's not reading status, obviously. Let's go see where we have it throughout the module. So basically, I'm going to do a try catch. And I can figure out if we have something that works or if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, like we have no data, nothing's ordered yet, then ultimately we'll just move forward. We just have to do something in its place. So here, instead of breaking it, it'll just kind of pass it through saying, hey, you don't have anything ordered yet, so we're not going to show you the data that didn't show up. And that should clear that error. So we'll go to one that we actually have done something with. It says undefined. Okay, let's go back and fix this. So we do know the validation's working. 25 is a number. So we ordered 25. Received, that worked. So the received, as you can tell, I'm just changing something with this put. The status is getting changed up, and it's saying instead of ordered, it's going to say received, and I have a new timestamp. And so then we can put that good news into our items table, which will be a post. So it's kind of a chain reaction of things go on when you make an update like this. So you say, hey, we've got this. Okay, great. Now let's go tell the database in the items table the good news. So it's one step after the next. And so you basically wait till one has succeeded, as you can see, and then you move forward with the next step. Yeah, so here we are going to the items table, and we're going to update what the quantity says. So it'll be real time. The quantity will update it in the database for the stocks. We'll be doing good for the quantity in the stock. And let's go ahead and go to the server side Node.js for our items. And it's just going to be using this route very similar to the update quantity or the update review up here. We're going to go update quantity. And we'll do a little changing up of what we're doing. Make sure the names all add up. Okay, that's going to be stock quantity. So it's basically doing the same thing. Sorry I spelled update wrong, but we'll get through it. So let's go ahead and go back to make sure that we have all of these variables. Now, remember when I was moving around trying to get the right scope for them, I didn't do a good enough job. So let's go ahead and make sure that it's out of that if statement. And we'll kind of we'll kind of dictate what needs to be important throughout this, if this status is ordering or received here. Now, tempQuntity, I need to have that available for everybody in whatever, regardless of ordering or receiving. That being the case, I'm just going to rearrange things so that the scope of tempQuntity is going to be effectively outside of that, and available throughout the function. All right, so here we go. I'm going to write this function. I'm going to send my object over to the function. And here we are with the client-side update to the items table. We're going to be telling a new quantity. And I'm passing over this object that we calculated a minute ago. And we built, basically. Same thing, just available outside of that. It makes it kind of easier if you do step by step and separate things out. So this is easier to read. Now when we get all product orders back, it's going to be a lot of data. It's going to be every time we've ever ordered it, and it's going to have all this information with us. And from there, we're going to be cutting through that in a loop form to start calculating what we did per month order. And then we're going to do the exact same thing to the purchases. Purchases is going to go through all of our purchases for that item one at a time and add it up, and then we'll compare it. So here we go. Updating items table. I'm going to go through all of my purchases and add them. There we go. Each time. Yeah, you really just don't, just pass in the quantity is fine. And like I said, there's a couple different things. I'm not validating anything if it's received, because they're not typing in a number; they're just clicking a button. So I want to avoid any kind of error there. Looks like we're working. So 21 on the way. 21 and 25 together. Breaks it. Then we'll go back and fix this. Still got to get that more. Yeah, it's null for stock quantity is no good. Let's this was a tricky one. This made me irritated because it should have worked. I missed something, and so I eventually came around and wrote another loop. I pushed everything into an array and then basically made a loop through and added it. As you can see, that's what I'm trying to do here, and it's giving me crap. So yeah, that quantity up there is going to have to be changed, so I updated that. Let's go ahead and try this again. Okay. So let's do a little more updating with our state. Yeah, I remember arguing with this thing for a little while, and the thing is I have to do this twice. I also have to do with the order or the purchases, so coincidentally, once I got it right here, I just was able to do the same thing again. I'm just doing a little padding and putting in a heading. See, the problem here is that I'm getting our numbers now, and they are coming together, but they're not adding. It's going through and finding the correct item. And I'm just arguing with it for a little while. You'll see me go back and forth. I'll eventually iron this all out. This is a little more appropriate to labeling. So the last time I ordered 12. Last time I ordered 3. We're not quite there yet because it's not adding. So we'll see here in a second what happens. As you can see, it's not doing much adding. All right, I'm going to go ahead and fall back to deal with what exactly is it I'm looking at. And it turns out I had it written wrong. So here we go. Let's go ahead and let it know that if we've ordered a certain amount and we're under, I'm going to change the text color to be red if it's under 5. And for some reason, this gets deleted at the end of the lesson, so I guess I'll come back around next time and fix it. But it's fairly simple. It basically just asks what the number is in stock quantity. And if it's below 5, then it turns this stuff saying order more, it turns it red. And I'm using that with a bootstrap. It's a text-danger is the class name. And it's the same naming as same naming standards as they use with anything else, whether it be using the alert box or buttons. They have info, they've got success, they've got warning, they've got danger, and they're all applied a color. Danger is almost always red. So muted would be like a gray. So basically it's just kind of a order more wouldn't really, it's not yelling at you. But if you have less than 5, it's just there. And if you're less than 5, then it does turn red. And I'm basing this on a ternary operator in the class names for the H3 and the P tag. So very easy to do. Ternary operators are unbelievable. for something like changing classes. If there's two of them, mind you. If there's more than two that you need to change it to, you're going to have to do something else. Basically a case switch or a bunch of if statements. All right, so now, as you can see, we're starting to get correct things here. My work is starting to pay off. Looks like I had just written in the number 57 at one point, so let's go ahead and change this down to, I ordered 1. Nothing's gotten updated. But let's go back in and refresh it and see what happens. Yeah, there's the 1. And you can see it's red. So this is also going to be unfortunate because we're going to end this lesson where we do make the updates, but then, we have to leave and then come back and see the update. And so the next session we go through, I'll fix that. It'll just be something where I need to call call up the new data once we have successfully changed up everything. But luckily everything's working. As you can see here, I ordered 5. Once I get it, I hit receive. Nothing's updating yet. So as you can see down at the bottom, though, the 6 did work. There we go. Like I said, you got to refresh it. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Grab all items. We know this one from the original app.js. I've passed it around. Basically, anytime we do anything, I just download all the items again and all their data, which includes the stock quantity. So this place is no different. I'm just going to pass my session token, and off we go. And let's see if it refreshes now. And no. That's weird that I passed the session token. That's just a number. That's not the object. So we'll see if that comes up. I can't remember. So I'll order another one. I know what I do. So basically, once you've done this, it resets the form. So I'm going to pass setActiveItem down. So every time you do any kind of update, it goes back to reset the form so that you're ready. And then you'll be forced to go back to edit, which will show you your new information. I think I know where the problem is, though. So if this keeps up, I can't remember if I fix it. You see how the grab all items is passing that token. I think I know where the problem is. So if in case I don't fix this while we're staring at it, I'm going to come back around next session. I can fix it. And so we'll have this update like without us screwing around and having to do all this stuff. Because it's working, but then you have to leave and then come back to see the change. That's not good. See, now I'm going to edit, and then there it is. So it got it. But I don't like the way it's working out here. And do some more checking to see if this works. So I ordered it, received it, had to leave, had to come back, and there it is. Still, the switch func needs to be working. So that's not how you do it either. So and here it'll go from red to the muted gray color. So there you go. It's not an emergency anymore. So not everything's done there. You can see we'll be back. Here's the graph that we'll be choosing to use from Apex Charts. It's free, and it is a good comparison line graph to where we can see our orders versus our purchases. So I'm going to wrap everything in a React fragment and start bringing in a module with our Apex chart on it. Okay, so our inventory chart is what I'm going to name it. And I'm just going to grab the default class component, React code, just the stuff they're offering. I'm going to go ahead and change out the titles. As you can see here, we're doing ordering versus sold as opposed to a temperature, and we're just doing a comparison of the two. And I'll make this out to be a little more appropriate for what our content's going to be. And obviously the inventory chart is something I'm going to have to import. And there's a lot of naming conventions because of I just copy and pasted this, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustments, as you can see. And this is what we're going to be exporting, so. And that down there is going to be completely overhauled. Hold on one second. There you go. Let's go ahead and export that normal and get that correct. And we will see if I actually even need Axios on that page. Okay, you can see that the chart's working with the default stuff. So let's get let's get our stuff imported. We're going to go ahead and build out, obviously, the numbers of how many things have been sold and how many things have been ordered. But we also need to build out the months. And the months are listed in a timestamp that are kind of, we need to get a substring to get them out. And so what we want to know is, hey, is this in the receiving kind of bin? Does this have the word received in the status? And that would be an important part of us counting what we have on the inventory. And you'll see us apply that here in a second. All right, we're going through and seeing what we ordered and seeing what we received. That's a lot of information coming in. But let's go ahead and start building this monthly total. Now, as you can see, I've brought in kind of what it's going to look like, and I'm highlighting there, it says ordering for the status. That's an important thing. As we're going through here, I want to make sure that the word received is in the status, not ordering. And if it is in there, like meaning that it's not a -1, it's a number, then I'm going to push it to the ordered quantities. So these are things that that ultimately were successful. The order was successful, and that's what I'm going to be adding. Now, also, as you can see through the status in this string, there's the month and time and date, all that. I'm counting to see what my substrings are so I can get that month, the dash, and the date, or the time of the year. So as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and push those out to our months. But now, it's always important, we don't want to have the same month listed multiple times. So we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to find out, hey, is this month already there? Yes? Okay, well, what number is it in that list that we've already pushed? And then we'll add that number as opposed to representing a new character. We'll add it so we can get a sum of the one that was already there for that, representing that month. Pretty straightforward. Substrings are kind of a little pain just to count how many characters you have, but they definitely will get that data for you in a super easy way. Okay, and so at this point, at the end of it all, I can tell you basically what I got, what the orders were. And I screw around with this for, gosh, a little while to get it the way I want it, but you kind of see my point. Now I want to pass the information that I got over to our friend over here, this Apex chart. And these are the specific spots that like the months are going to land for the categories. That goes around the bottom on the x-axis of the chart. So we can't really even see too much of it. Like, we need to ultimately have like into the negative numbers. So I'm going to change a lot of the properties coming up here in a little bit too for the chart, so you can see this stuff. And it looks like it's coming together. I mean, this is just fake data though, so my properties aren't getting through yet. So what I'm going to do is kind of declare my properties first. And then I'll also do the same for the months as well. And this is, remember, this is a class component, so you don't have this prop or the props. It's this dot props. So in a second, I'll have to come through and fix all these. And we've done this before, and then probably maybe in my last project we worked on, I showed you how to convert these Apex charts to like basically a functional component. It's a little harder to run, like as far as feeding it the data, but it can be done, and it's a little easier to work with. It has its ups and downs. What's good with the class component is it's going to be easy to do a comparison. It's like, does this data look like the data we already have? And that's already kind of cemented into it. And so that really does help out if you're just updating something, and you don't have to take it down and then write a whole new one. It'll just update. And so the class components were nice about that. Not to say I can't do it with functional, but it was nice. So let's go back. As you can see, I've finally figured out that this needs to be in front of the props. And we're now looking to see the success rate of passing my data on to its Apex module, the chart module. I'm getting closer. And I do realize that the same stuff can be used up here. And so then I shall do that. yeah, I screw around here for a while, just kind of trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And as you can see, my substring is off and I'm not getting the months. So that's a big problem. So I got to do the math again on how many. I'm going to count. And then I'll change the numbers up, so I'll get a few more out from the year to get that month. There we go. And as you can see now, we have the year dash month. So those are going to be our categories at the bottom y-axis. So we're doing good here, and we're making sure that the month only gets represented once. So here we go with that. I'm asking it, hey, is this month already there? And I'm going to go ahead and make this easier, saying, hey, the month is going to be this. And we're going to ask it, hey, is the month we're talking about already here? An index of. If it's -1, that means no. There's no index of it. If it has a number and it's not -1, then it means it does exist, and we'll move on. At that point, we would just push the new month in and the quantity. Now, the interesting thing is, if the month already exists, we don't need to push a month at all. We just need to find out what the index is we're dealing with that has that month and take the sum of the ordered quantity and the quantity that already resides there. So we're just going to find out, okay, you do have this month. What's the index number of that month? Great, okay. So now I'm going to add my ordered number to that index number. So that if it's done in that month, they all just get totaled into a sum. All right, we're starting to see some success here. It's not showing up everywhere I'd like. I think the labeling's off. So let's just see what we're seeing over here on the charts. And obviously we have to do this props. Okay, so you can see that there is a data point up there. And then they are coming through correctly. That's good. That's a good sign. There's just not that many data points. That's the problem. You can't see them. Because they're just not on the chart. They're just off the chart. And I play around with the ternary operator to see. Here I'm asking it, if you don't even see anything at all, don't even show the chart module, just skip it. And I don't think I keep this. Yeah, I don't. Okay, good. Okay, so there is a data point, that just one, which makes sense. You can. The problem is it's like the same day and doing the same orders, so it's just going to keep showing up like that. So what I'm going to have to do is, as you can see, I'm going to the database to change dates, because it's really the only way I can make this work. So I'm going to bring it data that has it shows different dates on here. This was going to help us determine whether the function is working or not. Now let's give it a shot. There we go. You see how it's all over the map, but yeah, now you're getting your data points. The problem here is we can't really see too much of it, so we're going to have to make some adjustments. Like the chart's cut off if you go into the negatives. So here we are getting all the orders by name, by the item name on the server side. And it's not a like at all, it equals. So we can take out the parentheses or the percentages, and we can put this into the parameters of item name, and we'll change the notes as well. And we'll do something similar over here on the inventory for the server side. I'm sorry, for the client side. Okay, so now we're going by the name. And we'll switch this up to be a little more specific with the items. And then we'll go ahead and set this up with a state. And as you can see, we're kind of mimicking what we did earlier for orders, because it's technically doing the same thing. The only thing is with the orders, you just do one at a time. You can't order, or with the purchases, it just counts one at a time. There's more of them, more interactions, but yeah. So I'm basically mimicking the same thing for the purchase log. Now, because you can see it's going to have the same kind of months pushed up there, and we're going to have to change the wording to do things like purchase log. But it's all the same concept. You go through a loop, you add up the total, you go through the same loop. While you're doing that, you also gather up all the months acquired and affiliate them with the totals, and then you present them in the comparison graph. Now we don't have to, we're looking for received here because that's not going to be part of your sale ID. But we are going to have to do the same thing we did with the getting the substrings, so we can get the year and the month. And it's going to be in the sale ID, so not the same thing, not the same, but close. And I'm just counting how many characters so I can get the substring correct. Yeah, and so as you can see, I'm just, every time it's mentioned, I just do 1. We're just adding 1. All right, let's get this data working over to the Apex chart. I'm just going to go ahead and put this down here because it's easy to access while I do all this passing of our data to its child component. And here you are. We'll let them show up within our properties. So I'm going to start doing some padding so we can see a little bit more of what's going on below. It's first off, the footer is in the way for 1. So a little more padding and margin. It's better. And we're seeing some progress here. And do another state that we can share for total ordered and total purchased. And here we're going to use these states, one minus the other, to get total of our inventory. And at that point, we'll be able to know whether we're short, like if something got lost or stolen. And here we are, adding it all up. And just adding the single purchase to the total. There we are. Now we can get that total. So stock quantity. We were using it before. Now we're going to only be updating it when we do this update for the order status. So I'm going to go clear it out of all the posts for the add item and update. I'm clearing it all out. We're going to have to do this on the server side too. So as you can see, I'm going through every time I ask for it, anytime it's mentioned, and I'm using the finder to find it and take it out of all the packages I'm sending and all the validations as well. Because it's only going to be a read-only that's filled out once my data has been downloaded and calculated. And so the user will no longer be doing the standard input of, hey, I ordered this and we all believe you. Not at all. Now this is going to be automated through our ordering process. And as you can see, I'm just taking it out of the update item so it's not necessary. And the post item, we're not going to be doing that here either. This other stuff's fine. It still needs to get pulled when I ask for a get. Stock quantity here is this is where we're going to be updating it in our new strategy. And it's really a calculation I'm just doing on the fly. So here we go with my calculation that just gets done on the fly. So I'm going to tell it to put stock quantity, that field name, I'm going to put it in there. And I'm going to let it know, hey, if this like DOM object exists or element exists, it's an input field called stock quantity with the name stock quantity. If that exists, can you go ahead and make its value? Currently, I'm just going to make it this number. In a second, you're going to see some real magic where it kind of breaks down what's going on a lot better. And I'm going to have it wait about a second so I know that everything's loaded up, and just give it time for everything to get ready. And then once we get ready for the calculation, I make the calculation. So I'm just making it wait 1 second. And as you can see, I did it, but we moved the thing too fast. Yeah, currently not working. We'll see here in a second. There we go. Let's see if this works. Let me get that S out of there. Yeah, stemp total. It's awesome. All right, -3. Looks like we're working. Let's go ahead and change the properties so they can see this. Yeah, so these are just properties that make your chart the way you want it. Like, you can change your colors, you can change anything. First off, I'm going to make it a little bigger. And height is 16. Now the offset is 75, so I can see a little bit more. I want to be able to see the bottom much more than I already do. So let's go 100, 100. Now we can see. You see how we can see the graph much better? So just change the properties so you can see if you go negative. And here I'm going to make a string that kind of is a little more, brings a little more to the table for the user. It's not only going to explain like, hey, this is what you ordered and this is what you sold, and it's also going to break down the actual the comparison as well. See how now it makes a little more sense when someone's looking at it. Yeah, so I'm just going to apply a little more information. And I'm going to fix this calculation for once and all. I'm just going to calculate it at the end. with a for loop, because it's giving me so much troubles. I'd just rather count it once it's already ready in the array. And not only that, I used reduce and it kept giving me crap. So I decided to use this for loop instead. It tells me reduce is not a function, and I just don't want to play with it. It's like, okay, well, I'll just keep adding them, and then I'll come around with my answer. So I'm sure I know I've used reduce in other projects. I'll have to go look. But in React, it was giving me crap, so I just didn't use it. I'm sure it's nothing. Yeah, I'm just evaluating my adding of what I'm doing, and I'm just going to fix this real quick. It looks like the math's correct. I just need to go in here and there we go. Now I can do our stock, what we have in stock, and now it will work. And it looks like I've got a few things I'm going to iron out in the next lesson. That'll help update it, so we don't have to re-update our form to see the changes. So that's something I'm going to do next lesson. There we go. Now we're getting our stuff to register. And as you can see, our analytics is all running the same purchases we just spoke of. Yeah, we're getting some comparisons here. I mean, the data's all messed up because I'm just making up numbers. So when you build this, it's important probably to go through, and you're going to have to change the months in your purchase log, because otherwise they'll all be purchased under the same month you built it in. So, learn from me and make some purchases and then go and kind of update them. And here, as you can see, we're walking through a purchase. We're going through our standard purchasing to see if everything's working. You can always order more. Yep, that's great. And there's your data point of your order of 5. Looking good. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Now we're starting to see a real inventory comparison for orders versus sold. So this is getting real. I hope you guys enjoy it. I feel like, if anything, I'd like to hear some more ideas of what anybody's interested in, because I'm going to be moving on to another project soon. So if you want to see anything in particular here, let me know. And I'll see you in probably our final lesson for this guy next time.